Twilight gets a puppy. By TDR. Posters note. Okay, some time back I posted I somehow missed a chapter. Well, this is the chapter I noticed that on. This is chapter 92.5, no clue what happened to chapter 92, I checked the chapter names and they seem to be there, but I have not had a chance to look into it very deep. So yes, I know it goes chapter 91 then 92.5, if I find the missing chapter I will post it. But I will make it a .5 type chapter. I will not be renumbering the chapters. And yes, the writer did post a 92.5 chapter. End posters note. Chapter 92.5, Pony and Dog Show. Epilogue 4. Ponyville. I told you not to come. And I told you, that if you thought I wouldn't be here when my brother was in danger, you're not the mayor I thought I knew. Cadance frowned, looking at Shining Armor. The white unicorn stared back at the pink princess impassively. Don't mind me. I'll just lay down over here and die because of flying Captain Lardass over there the 6 leagues across a dangerous forest because he had to be here and he wouldn't even take his armor off. Comet Trail called, laying on the ground in a heap not far from the pair, panting hard, his bat wings twitching. It was an order. Shining Armor rolled his eyes as Cadance smirked a little. I'm not part of your unit, the Thestral called back. It was a favor and now you owe me one, so right now shut up and let me die in peace. Go see your brother or something. Right, thanks. Anyway, princess. I may have told my guards to return to Canterlot, but I am still here now. And unless you want to order me away so I can ignore that too, Shining began. Shining. By the stars, more yelling. Comet Trail whimpered as a purple blur slammed into Shining Armor, bouncing off the armored white unicorn with a crash. Ow! Twilight muttered from the ground. Are you all right, Twilight? Cadance and Shining Armor asked at the same time, looking down at her before looking back at each other with small smirks. At the crash, Spike, the Crusaders' Fireball, and the rest of the main 6, minus Rarity, all came out of the town hall where Cadance had been coordinating the 42nd Guard around Ponyville. I'm fine. I think. But Cadance here is keeping me from going after Ross, Twilight pointed at the pink mare accusingly as she got up. And Rarity is down there too. Shining Armor raised an eyebrow looking at Cadance, who simply sighed. Spike, please inform your brother what I told everyone, and that your sister is ignoring. Cadance grumbled. Princess Celestia and Princess Luna are dealing with it. Spike shrugged. Honestly, I'm a bit worried myself. It's been an hour since everyone came back with Cadance. Except my sister. Sweetie Belle shouted, flailing at Cadance with her 4 hooves as Apple Bloom and Scootaloo held her back. Where is she? You. Smarmy Toad. Smarmy Toad. Shining Armor questioned, looking at Cadance. Rarity taught her it's uncouth to swear. Apple Bloom explained. So she mixes up words she's read and tries to make them insults. Scootaloo offered. It's pretty fun most times. Ignorant Kumquat is still my favorite this week. Spike chimed in. I liked Chronic Drumstick myself. Pinkie Pie added. Parasitic Oak Plank was a humdinger. Applejack added. Oh, so it was an insult when she called Angel Bunny a cumbersome gumdrop? Fluttershy considered. Cantankerous Nimbus was a good one. Fireball added. Ooh, I like that one better than Snowflake Harlot. Dash smirked. She didn't listen either, Cadance grumbled, tuning out the others. Much like you and Twilight. It seems no one in your family listens to what other ponies say. Oh, I listened, I just came here anyway. Shining rebuked. Now, before Twilight decides it would be more efficient to try and teleport to every hospital within range of Canterlot, where are Princess Celestia or Princess Luna? Oh right, I can do that. Twilight beamed. No, everyone shouted, with the exception of Comet Trail, who just weakly muttered it between gasps for air. Oh my, what is everyone shouting about? Rarity. Sweetie Belle shouted, shrugging off Scootaloo and Apple Bloom and bouncing over to grapple her sister's neck in a death hug. Rarity, where's Ross and Princess Celestia? Twilight demanded, getting in the other mare's blue face. AKK. Rarity responded. Asterisk. Celestia frowned as the doctor gave the report to her. If Luna had not been livid before, she would be now. Ross, however, sat on the bed calmly listening, his frown deepening as everything was explained. He wanted something to eat, a bath and a nap, in that order. Celestia turned from the doctor to look over the moon dog. At first glance he seemed fine. As the doctor continued, however, she saw some of the issues he was speaking of. Ross's amber eyes were a bit dull, and the small bits of skin that weren't covered by fur, his nose, lips, and around his ears, were all very pale. The doctor listed that as a result of the blood he lost. The magic she had been giving him had helped, but his body was worn out from his hours of being drained and the forced regeneration he had been subjected to. Celestia hadn't even been aware that he could recover as fast as he had. As a pup, his few injuries had healed quickly, but this was something that probably should have killed him. He was also rail thin, his body having converted what fat he had on him to energy to heal. So far he had eaten everything put in front of him and likely would have kept going until he overstuffed himself and became sick. He was known to do that, and the doctors were aware of that. It was his right arm that had Celestia more worried than anything else. Right now it was heavily bandaged, but she and Rarity had seen it when they first dropped him off at the hospital before popping over to Jinx and her pack. To say it was mangled was an understatement. There was very little fur from his wrist to his bicep, and it was covered in bite marks and places where strips of flesh had been torn off. Thankfully Butch had enough control over his pack to keep them from getting more than samples and nearly draining him dry. The current worm food had wanted him to last as long as possible to continually supplement their food supply until Butch could eat his heat before it gave out. Ross was anemic, on the verge of collapsing, and had an arm to regrow, but according to the doctor he was to make a full recovery. While hearing that was a relief, Celestia was still concerned. Ross had yet to say a word, nor try and cant anything with his ears to any pony. Thus Celestia was quite worried about what his mental state was like after his ordeal. What he had been through was torture pure and simple. It was that thought that eased her mind in letting Luna do as she wished to the Bonehounds. Still, she wanted to know how he was coping. He had only been imprisoned for perhaps 2 or 3 hours at best, depending on how long it took them to drag him through the tunnels. Her questions would need to wait, however, as a trio of figures suddenly appeared in the room with a flash of light. Spike yelped as he fell off Twilight's back. Shining armor crashed into the doctor and they fell down in a heap, trying to untangle from each other. Twilight managed a glare at Celestia before she was nearly on top of Ross, looking him over with an appraising eye. Ross raised an eyebrow at his sister's inspection before sighing and rolling his eyes as she checked him out. What happened? Twilight demanded, though if it was from Celestia, the doctor, or Ross, no one was sure. Woof. Ross shrugged. What do you mean they played dirty? Twilight demanded. That doesn't explain anything. Ross shrugged again. Twilight turned on Celestia as if to demand an answer to what had happened. Celestia was about to explain, only to take note of the faded amber glare that met her gaze over the top of Twilight's head. Don't. Celestia frowned, glancing at Shining, who was too busy trying to get up to have heard him. Twilight was too busy glaring at her to hear, evidently. She sighed as she lightly nodded. I only pulled him out of there, Twilight. I don't know what happened after he was captured. Celestia lied. I was a little concerned with the pups chewing on my legs. Celestia lifted a leg, showing the teeth marks in her gold hoof covers. Pups? What? Spike asked. There were some hostile negotiations that Luna took part in. Negotiations that required the safe relocation of the diamond dog pups in the warren. Celestia continued, picking her words carefully. Celestia took note that Spike seemed to be trying to translate that. She also took note that Twilight and Shining Armor flinched, understanding the double talk. Ross just sat there, which was even more worrying. So she beat them up. Good. Maybe they'll think twice next time. Spike huffed. Shining and Twilight glanced at each other, but Celestia was certain she saw Ross crack a smile at Spike's innocence in the situation. So what's wrong with him? Shining asked the doctor, looking at how thin and pale his brother was. Well, as I was explaining to the princess, the doctor started to say before there was a massive flash of light and the whole room was suddenly filled with ponies. See, this is what happens when you rush me. Cadence shouted from somewhere near the bottom of the pile. That was a teleport? That was cool. Scuttalo shouted. Do it again. Pinkie Pie cheered. Get your hoof out of my face. Applejack fussed at Rarity. Darling, that is not my hoof. Sweetie Belle is currently clinging to my hoof. Rarity snapped back. I can't see anything. Sweetie Belle fussed from under Rarity. Well, whoever's hoof that is gonna get a slap if they don't move it. Fireball grumbled. I think it's my hoof, sorry. Fluttershy muttered. Are we there yet? Apple Bloom asked. For the love of everything, all of you get off of me. Why was I even brought along? Comet Trail whined. Somewhere in that massive pile of ponies, Princess Celestia, the Doctor, Twilight, Shining Armor, and Spike lay buried. Only Ross, sitting on the bed, had missed out, and he was clearly amused by that. Author's note. I've got 1 or 2 more before we return to mostly normal. End author's note. End chapter 92.5, Pony and Dog Show. Epilogue 4.